Technology, Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fiber. Call 1212.
Tonight, against all odds, incoming Army Commander pledges to continue to serve the country despite condemnation from foreign entities. It's time. President officially notified to appear before Parliamentary Select Committee probing the Easter terror. Unanswered but no giving up. Cardinal hopeless of justice being served to Easter victims. Gotabaya Rajapaksa meanwhile pledges to pay heed to the Cardinal's request when in power. Preference. SLPP leader Mahinda Rajapaksa happy to see Sajid Premadasa as UMP contender at presidential elections. All these stories and much more coming our way on First at 9 this Sunday, the 25th of August 2019.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
Nava Lifebuoy Cool Fresh සහ Lemon Fresh Menthol සහ Lemon සාරයෙන් දහදිය තඳ ඇති කරන සැඟවුණු විස බීජ වලින් ආරක්ෂා කර ඔබව ෆ්‍රෙෂ් කරයි. විස බීජ off, fresh එක on.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and welcome to First at 9 on AdaDerana 24, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katrina Chang. On to your top story tonight. President Maithripala Sirisena has been officially notified to appear before the Parliamentary Select Committee probing attacks on Easter Sunday. Chairman of the committee, Deputy Speaker Anandakumara Siri stated the relevant notice in writing requested President Sirisena to inform of a convenient date and time to appear before the committee. However, the head of state had previously stated that he will not appear before the Parliamentary Select Committee. Deputy Speaker Anandakumara Siri added that the final report of the committee findings will be compiled and submitted to Parliament if the President does not appear before the committee. The term of the Parliamentary Select Committee, which was to expire on Friday the 23rd of August, was last week extended until September 30th. Newly appointed Commander of Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, pledged to serve Sri Lanka in spite of widespread criticism from foreign nations and international organizations over his appointment. The Army Commander was in Kandy to call on Chief Prelates of Asgiri and Malvatta chapters today.
Newly appointed Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva paid a visit to the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy for religious observances. The Army Commander then called on the Chief Prelate of Malvatta chapter, Most Venerable Tibatuave Sri Sumangala Thera, at the Malvatta Mahavihara in Kandy. He later called on Anunayaka Thera of the Malvatta chapter, Venerable Dimbulkumure Vimaladhamma Thera. Upon arrival of the Asgiri Mahavihara later in the day, the Army Commander called on Chief Prelate of Asgiri chapter, Most Venerable Varakakoda Sri Jnanaratana Thera. He then responded to questions by journalists.
ජාත්‍යන්තර බලවේග ඔබතුමාට විරුද්ධව යම් ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්න යනවා කියලා
මම කරේ වෙන දෙයක් නෙමෙයි මම ගියේ මගේ රට වෙනුවෙන් මට ලබා දුන්න දේ මම කරේ මම අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමාට ඉතාමත්ම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා එතුමා ගත්ත එඩිතර සහ අභීත තීරණය මම යුද හමුදාපති පත් කරන්න මම දන්නවා පෞද්ගලිකවම එතුමාට විශාල අභියෝග එන්නේ නැති ඉදිරියටත් එන්න පුළුවන් මේ රට වෙනුවෙන් මොන චෝදනා ආවත් ඉදිරියටත් ගිහිලා මගේ ජීවිතේ පරිත්‍යාග කරලා හරි රට ආරක්ෂා කරන්න මම කැපෙලා ඉන්නවා කියනවා දමිළ ජනතාවේ පැත්තේ හිටපු කට්ටිය ඉතාමත් හොඳින් දන්නවා යුද හමුදාව මොන ආකාරයෙන්ද උන්ට සැලකුවේ.
Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, vowed to continue to fight for justice for those who sacrificed their lives during the spate of attacks on Easter Sunday. He said he will not give up on finding the truth behind the terror attacks, although all hope for justice from leaders and authorities have vanished. The Cardinal made this statement during the service to blessing of the sick at the National Basilica of Our Lady of Lanka.
The 78th service of blessing of the sick at the National Basilica of Our Lady of Lanka in Thevatta Ragama was held in the midst of high security. President of the Italian Bishops' Conference, His Eminence Cardinal Gualtiero Bassetti, presided over the service, along with Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit.
ඊයේ මම මේ ලංකාවට ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්න ඉතාලි රදගුරු මණ්ඩලයේ සභාපති කාදිනල්තුමන් සමග කටුවපිටිය දේවස්ථානයට ගිය වෙලාවේ උන්වහන්සේ මට කිව්වේ මේ මිනිස්සු ප්‍රාණ පරිත්‍යාගීවරු. ඒ නිසා ඒගොල්ලන් ගැන මම ඉතාලියට ගිහිල්ලා සෙප්තැම්බර් මාසේ 3 වෙනිදා පාප් වහන්සේ මුණ ගැසුනම කියනවා මේ අය සාන්තුවරුන් ලෙස ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කරන්න කියලා. සමහර වෙලාවට මමත් මේක නිසා කඳුළු හෙලන අවස්ථා තිබෙනවා. අපරාධේ මේ අපේ සහෝදරයන්ට මේ වෙච්ච විපත. මම මේ දෙව්මැදුරු වලට යනකොට ආදරණීය ජනතාව මා ළඟට දුවගෙන ඇවිල්ලා මගේ කකුල් ඉඹලා මගේ අත් අල්ලලා මට කියන දේවල් අහද්දී මට ඇත්තටම ලැජ්ජාවක් හිතෙනවා. දුකක් හිතෙනවා. මේ සිද්ධීන්ට හේතුව මොකක්ද? කාගේ උවමනාවකටද මේ විනාශය කළේ? යන ප්‍රශ්න මම කීප වතාවක්ම ප්‍රසිද්ධියේ අහලා තියෙනවා. ඔබ දන්නවා යුක්තිය සාධාරණය ඉල්ලා ඔබ වෙනුවෙන් මම කී පාරක් කතා කළාද කියලා. මගේ ඉල්ලීමට ලැබී ඇති ප්‍රතිචාරය කුමක්ද කියාත් ඔබ හැමෝම දන්නවා. තවමත් ඒ ප්‍රශ්න වලට සුදුසු පිළිතුරු අපිට ලැබිලා නැහැ. ලැබේවි කියලා අපේ රටේ නූතන ඉතිහාසය බැලුවම සිතන්නත් බෑ. ඇත්තටම මිනිසුන්ගෙන් සාධාරණය ඉල්ලන එක මහා බොරු වැඩක් කියලත් සමහර වෙලාවට හිතෙනවා. ඒ අපි කියන සාධාරණය සත්‍ය සොයාගන්නට අපට පුළුවන් වෙයිද කියලා අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් අපි අතහරින්නේ නැහැ.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna Gotabaya Rajapaksa meanwhile pledged to promptly act upon the request made by His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit for an independent commission to probe the terror attacks under government of his leadership. The former Defence Secretary made this pledge in a special statement issued today.
The presidential hopeful of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Gotabaya Rajapaksa issuing a statement today said that his attention is drawn to a statement made by Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit on the 21st of April 2019 in the wake of the horrific terrorist attacks. The Cardinal called for the appointment of an independent commission with legal authority to inquire into and bring to justice all those who are responsible for the attacks. In this statement today, Gotabaya Rajapaksa said, quote, as a person who was instrumental in wiping out 30 years of brutal terrorism within a short span of 3 years, I request the government of Sri Lanka to respond to the long overdue and fair request made by His Eminence without further delay, unquote. He went on to pledge that the request made by the Cardinal to appoint an independent commission of inquiry will be promptly acted upon by a future government under his leadership. The former Defence Secretary assured a country free of terrorism and extremism so that people may live without fear again. Meanwhile, SLPP presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa participated in the Randoli procession of the Bellanvilla Rajamaha Vihara yesterday.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe highlights the need to develop the country by transforming the agriculture sector into an export-oriented process in order to revive the country from indebtedness. Speaking in Tantirimale today, the Premier said another 6 to 7 years are required to embark on this vision.
The construction of the Lower Malwatu Oya Tantirimale Reservoir, which will be Sri Lanka's second largest reservoir, commenced under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe this morning. The total investment for the project is 22.9 billion rupees. Construction of the reservoir, which is to hold 170,000 acre-feet of water, will be implemented in an eco-friendly manner with minimum impact on the Vilpattu wildlife zone.
මේ පාස්කු ඉරිදා බෝම්බෙන් පස්සේ ආර්ථිකය කැඩිලා සල්ලි නැහැ කිව්වේ අවස්ථාවේ තමයි මුදල් වෙන් කරේ මේ වැඩ කටයුතු අද ආරම්භ කරන්න කියලා මම කියන්න කැමතියි. මාස දෙකක් ආර්ථික හිර වෙලා තමයි මේක පිළිගන්නවා. විශාල පහරක් අපිට වැදුනා. මේ අවුරුදු දවසක් වෙනකොට ඒ හොඳ තත්වයකට අපිට එන්න පුළුවන් කියලා අයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. අපිට සම්ප්‍රදායික කෘෂි කර්මයේ ඉන්න බෑ. අපි නවීන කෘෂි කර්මයට යන්න ඕනේ. අලුත් තාක්ෂණ දැනුම ලබා දෙන්න ඕනේ. අපනායනට අපේ කෘෂි කර්මය හරවන්න ඕනේ. ඒ කරන්න අවුරුදු 5ක් 6ක් 7ක් අපිට ඕනේ. එහෙනම් මේ ගම්වල ආදායම අඩු ගානේ ගම් 150ක ආදායම වැඩි වෙනවා කියලා මං කිසිම බයක් නැතුව කියන්න කැමතියි. අපිට තාම ණය අරගෙන ඉන්න රටක් හැටියට ජීවත් වෙන්න බෑ. ඊළඟ අවුරුදු 5 අපිට තියෙන විශාලම ප්‍රශ්නේ අලුත් ආර්ථිකයක් වෙනවද නැත්නම් අපි රටේ ඉන්නවද?
Opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumuna will travel to every village in the north next week to meet with the Tamil community. Also voicing his thoughts on the UMP presidential candidate, the opposition leader said his preference is Minister Sajith Premadasa.
The 123rd birth anniversary of Venerable Balangoda Ananda Maitri Thera was commemorated under the auspices of opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa in Colombo this evening. The former president then took questions from reporters.
So, එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයට මේ යන විදිහට උන්ට ගමනක් තියෙයිද?
අනාගතයක් නැහැ. මේ යන විදිහට ඉතින් ඔක්කොම රණ්ඩු වෙනෝනේ. නායකකමට පොර කනවා පේන්නේ නැද්ද?
ඔබතුමා කැමති මොන වගේ අපේක්ෂකෙක් දැම්මොත් එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයට?
මම සජිත් දැනුවා කැමතියි.
The voting age in many countries across the world, with a few exceptions, is 18, and Sri Lanka is also among those nations. With that minimum age being in the tender side, social entrepreneur Eranda Ginige casts doubt over not just young voters but also the educated populace as decision makers, calling into question their knowledge on the country's constitution. Speaking in Divariyambuatta on our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24, Ginige pointed out that there won't be democracy where there is a lack of responsible and informed decision makers.
You talk about the continuation of this Republic of Sri Lanka relies on the people's awareness, their knowledge on the constitution. But governments after governments have failed to give the people their real power. How are we going to change this?
My answer to that is yes, there is a fault with the governments and the politicians. Partly it is done deliberately. But I think the onus and the responsibility is with the people. We have to stop saying that the people are all informed and all wise and people know everything. It's not the case. You realize that the understanding of the republic and democracy and how the democracy is structured in the Republic of Sri Lanka, there's a huge lack of understanding among the people. If the educated people don't have that thorough, broad understanding, how can we expect the average citizen who may not have had that much of education to have that understanding? Rule of the people, by the people, for the people. Some of the basics are lacking, right? This constitution is the social contract between us, i.e. the people, not between people and the supposed rulers, right? There are no rulers in a democracy. So you have to read this. If you are casting your vote without reading your constitution, it is as ridiculous as signing a very important legal document without actually reading it.
Is it really our education system that's amiss? For people to be so ignorant about their rights vested through the constitution.
In a democracy, people rule. People make decisions. Now, to make those decisions, one must have a thorough understanding of the constitution and the democratic process. Schools, first of all, the principals and the teachers need to understand their constitution. And then they need to have a real dialogue. They need to have embedded teaching with the students from a young age to prepare them to be decision-making citizens. If you don't have people who can make informed, conscious decisions, then how can you expect democracy?
And with that, we go into a short commercial break, but make sure you stay tuned for more news right after that. Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrijit Kumaraswamy, says the proposed amendments to the Monetary Law Act will be a vital piece of legislation to improve consistency and predictability of policy regulation that is lacking in the country. Cabinet approval was granted to the proposed amendments and will now be passed to Parliament for further deliberation. Amendments to the legislation is expected to strengthen the independence of the Central Bank.
It was put to Cabinet and the Cabinet has passed it to the Parliamentary Public Finance Committee to organise some consultations on it. Then the Parliamentary Public Finance Committee will submit a report to Cabinet and then hopefully we can move forward after that. This is a landmark piece of legislation. Now we have to go and convince bond investors to invest and give us the money that we need. And we need given our debt dynamics, we need probably going forward about $3 billion per year. One of the things that really worked in our favor was that we were able to tell them that we are in the process of trying to draft a Monetary Law Act which would increase the independence of the central bank, which would stop the central bank from printing money. That was a big selling point. So we were able to say that there were clear frameworks for macroeconomic policy formulation and for our debt management. That gave people the confidence to give us the money. And the biggest complaint about policies in Sri Lanka is the lack of consistency and predictability. If you have clear frameworks and they are institutionalized in law, then the predictability and consistency improves in an exponential way. And we address one of the biggest issues we have in terms of confidence amongst both domestic economic agents as well as potential foreign investors.
Market analysts forecast retail and high net worth activity to remain high with investor interest witnessed mostly in mid-cap counters. At the end of trading on Friday, the Osha Price Index gained 0.07%, while the S&P 20 lost 0.10%. We now have Dimantha Matthew from First Capital Holdings with the market expectations.
With the cut in policy rates, we saw a decline in yields last week. We believe the local buying interest is likely to keep the yields down in the bond market in the next week as well. However, with the volatility in the political setting and the global trade war related issues, there's a bit of selling pressure which might continue for a couple of more weeks. On the stock market, we expect positivity with the further drop in rates, but with the surge in the market in previous weeks, the uptrend is likely to be much slower with continuous profit taking in selected counters. We expect retail and high net worth activity to remain high with investor interest mostly in mid-cap counters. Foreigners may continue to be on the selling side in line with the global trend.
The 45th medical camp of the series of clinics conducted by AdaDerana to address health conditions relating to kidney disease was worked off at the Malunkavil public grounds in Kilinochchi yesterday. The visiting public were given eye checkups, blood tests and medical advice. AdaDerana conducted the clinic in partnership with Sri Lanka Army, Leeson's Hospital, Octane Marketing Services Private Limited, Sri Lanka Eye Donation Society and International Institute of Health Sciences. Neurophysician Dr. Padma Gunaratna is of the view that stroke support is lacking in the country and the public needs to be educated on the subject. The Stroke Support Organization for Sri Lankans launched their first magazine to raise awareness on stroke prevention as part of their mission towards improving stroke care across the country.
A stroke can be a leading cause of death or disability. But according to the National Stroke Association, stroke care has not received much of the attention it deserves in Sri Lanka. The Stroke Support Organization for Sri Lankans launched their first magazine to raise awareness on stroke prevention in Colombo yesterday.
This association, which has been established with the mere intention of providing opportunity for patients who are disabled following the stroke to socialize with the other patients as well as the staff. There had been instances that we have conducted lectures for patients, and at the same time I must say that this association is not for particular race or a religion. We have joined with National Stroke Association of Sri Lanka for the stroke walk to educate people on the stroke information. I must say that the patients who come here feel fulfilled because that they could share their disabilities, their experience with the other similar patients as well as the caregivers. Many caregivers feel that they were benefited by meeting other caregivers because they could exchange their experiences so that they learn from each other. I must invite all the stroke patients in this Western province to make use of this meeting once per month, the last Saturday of this month. This is at the National Epilepsy Center of the National Hospital. We have it in the morning. Any stroke patient or caregiver could attend to observe or to witness what is happening at this venue.
And we will go into a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more news. On international news, US President Donald Trump insisted today that he was getting along well with leaders at G7 summit in France amid reports of a rift between him and his Western allies on issues ranging from his trade war with China to Iran, North Korea to Russia. The G7 gathering is taking place against a backdrop of worries about a global economic downturn and coincides with an era of international disunity across an array of matters. French President Emmanuel Macron is slated to tackle trade, Iran and climate change, a clutch of global issues that risk further dividing a group of countries already struggling to pull together. Macron wants the leaders of Britain, Canada, Germany, Italy, Japan and the United States to focus on the defense of democracy, gender equality, education and climate change, and has invited leaders from Asia, Africa and Latin America to join them for a global push on these issues. But with the trade war between China and the United States escalating, European governments struggling to diffuse tensions between Washington and Tehran, and global condemnation growing over illegal fires in the Amazon, his agenda could be eclipsed. In Hong Kong, police fired tear gas and water cannons amid running battles with brick-throwing protesters in driving rain today after violent clashes a day earlier in which police fired tear gas for the first time in more than a week. At least 6 petrol bombs were thrown by protesters, some of whom took off down narrow side streets. The water cannons, which had not been used in years of anti-government protests, followed as a result. Early in the day, a Hong Kong police officer fired gunshots during protests, the first time a live round has been used since demonstrations broke out in June. Demonstrations were sparked by an extradition bill, but have since morphed into broad anti-government protests, and developments today mark a serious escalation in the unrest. Half-centuries from Colin de Grandhomme and BJ Watling gave New Zealand a first-inning lead of 138 against Sri Lanka on the 4th day of the second and final test in Colombo today. The touring side, who need a series-levelling win after Sri Lanka won the opening goal, reached 382 for 5 wickets on another rain-interrupted day. Watling was unbeaten on 81, while de Grandhomme was 83 not out after blistering knock, with the side needing quick runs to set Sri Lanka a target on the final day. American sprinter Christian Coleman has been charged with missing 3 drug tests under anti-doping rules. The US Anti-Doping Agency confirmed the 23-year-old has been charged with failing to properly file his whereabouts information. Coleman, who ran a world-leading time of 9.81 seconds in the Diamond League in California in June, has agreed to an arbitration hearing on 4th September. Under the whereabouts system, athletes must let officials know where they will be for 1 hour every day, as well as details of overnight accommodation and training. Failure to do so 3 times in a 12-month period could lead to a rule violation under the World Anti-Doping Code. If found guilty, Coleman would face charge of an automatic 1-year ban and would miss the World Championships and the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. And with that, we conclude this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.